こんにちは、デニスです。共産主義者です。That's right, I'm a goddamn commune. You've been watching some red agitprop to get you to take down capitalism. I hope it's working. But yes, I do indeed identify as some flavor of communist. I think Jamie Peck of The Majority Report described it best as a small c communist. So why'd I open up this video speaking Japanese, but said I'm a communist? Well, that's because I'm going to be talking about the Japanese Communist Party today, because I think it's a really cool political party, and I would just love to hear the rumors of me being some sort of sleeper cell for a Japanese communist takeover of the United States. First, I'd like to say I'm going to be talking about the Japanese Communist Party, Nippon Kyosanto, and not the Japanese Communist Party left faction, the Nihon Kyosanto Saha. Nippon Kyosanto, or the JCP, is a Marxist group, and the Nihon Kyosanto Saha is Maoist. Maybe we'll go over them and Mao sometime in the future. But without further ado, let's get right into the topic. The JCP was founded on July 15th, 1922, right smack dab in the middle of Imperial Japan's expansion of its empire. This makes it Japan's oldest political party, as the other major political parties in Japan's government were established after the creation of the US-backed constitution post-World War II. At the time, it was illegal to be communist in Japan, and it was very possible for members to be thrown into jail for their political beliefs. The JCP was the only opposition party to the empire, fighting for the liberation of Korea, Taiwan, and other colonized areas in the Asia-Pacific region. Not just those under Japanese rule, too, but European and American rule as well. In 1945, World War II had ended, and Japan was defeated, and in 1947, the US-approved Japanese constitution was put into effect. It expresses the resolve of the Japanese people that never again shall we be visited with the horrors of war through action of government, and declared that sovereign power resides with the people. This proved the correctness of the long-standing position of the JCP that had consistently opposed wars of aggression and called for people's sovereignty. Between the years of 1950 and 1955, the US repressed the JCP. The JCP had also cut ties with Soviet and Maoist communist groups in the USSR and China. Between 1958 and 1961, the party saw many changes, including a split with the left faction mentioned earlier. The JCP established a new course for their party, the new party program of democratic revolution with the central task for the full restoration of Japan's sovereignty and democratic change in politics and the economy, and sovereign independent position that does not allow interference from outside in the Japanese people's movement. While still supporting the USSR and China as communist experiments, the JCP retained their sovereignty from their influences. However, in 1964 and 1966, the USSR and China had begun to interfere with the JCP. Oh no, expansionist foreign political powers trying to gain influence in a sovereign country's political parties? Oh my, that's extremely communist, and America would never, ever do that. The JCP opposed the USSR's military intervention in Czechia in 1968 and their invasion of Afghanistan in 1979. By 1998, the JCP and the Chinese Communist Party had normalized relations after the CPC denounced its interference from the decades prior. In 2004, the JPC revised its program once more, breaking away from the Japan-US military alliance, Japan-US security treatment, to fully resolve our national sovereignty and aim to establish the non-aligned and neutral path, to change Japan's economic policy of serving the interests of large corporations and business circles to one of defending the interests of the people, to establish democratic rules that will check tyrannical activities of large corporations and protect the rights and livelihoods of the people, and never allow the adverse revision of the Japanese constitution, to promote democracy and establish a Japan free from militarism. They've also begun to work with other opposition parties in an attempt to stop the expansion of the Liberal Democratic Party, the mainline conservative party in Japan, that's been in power since the creation of the Constitution. The JCP is currently the largest non-governing communist party in the world, with 12 representatives, 13 councillors, 149 prefectural assembly members, and 2,605 municipal members. As of recently, though, the JCP has been having a bit of a hard time standing out. Abe, the current prime minister, has proposed similar social safety nets that the JCP has called for, making them a little harder to distinguish. It's honestly reminding me of the current debate over healthcare amongst Democratic candidates in the US. The JCP has also been more willing to participate in imperial ceremony, such as the opening of the Diet. The Diet is Japan's legislative branch, and they famously would avoid attending because it must be opened by the emperor, which they oppose. Though they seem to be a little more relaxed on this decision and have now begun to attend this ceremony. However, the JCP still has quite a foothold in certain aspects of the Japanese political system, namely their opposition to the TPP and their involvement with the teachers' union. The JCP cleverly put out anti-TPP propaganda in the countryside of Japan, where many farmers were concerned over the trade agreement affecting their livelihoods. See folks, the JCP has got it right. We need to reach out to our fellow proletariat in the farms. However, the JCP is still very urban and has a lot of support from unions, mainly the teachers' union, which is said to openly spread JCP propaganda. The JCP is also vehemently against the nuclearization of Japan's power grid and the US military in Okinawa. The JCP is also one of the few parties that wants to expand the recognition and protections for minority groups in Japan, including the Ainu, the Burakumin, the Ryukyuans, Koreans, Chinese, immigrants, women, and LGBT people. They even have some very dramatic political rivalry in the form of the Komeito, a very conservative political party that is straight up a cult. It's run by the new religious group Soka Gakkai. The JCP is very much opposed to religious influence in Japan's political discourse, and this, among other things, makes it not very popular with the rather conservative Buddhists of Soka Gakkai. Interestingly, the sarin gas attacks in the Tokyo subway by the cult Aum Shinrikyo tried to pin the attacks on both the JCP and Komeito by planting their daily papers in the trains where the attacks occurred, making it seem like these two resolved their differences in order to destroy Japan. Don't worry, I'll be going over Aum Shinrikyo sometime in the future. While certainly not perfect, and at times not even very radical, I think the JCP is a very wonderful example of a very persistent socialist opposition movement. This was just an incredibly brief overview of the JCP. If you want to learn more about them and you can read Japanese, I suggest checking out Akahata, their daily newspaper, which is also their main fundraising venture. If you can't read Japanese like myself, then I suggest checking out Japan Weekly Press, their official English translation of Akahata, highlighting weekly stories. The English version is a bit anemic in comparison, but it is still nice to get a non-mainstream news source from Japan to keep abreast of what's going on in the country. Thanks so much for watching. I had another topic about Japan, Shinto, and Pokemon, but that turned out to be a lot more research than I was willing to do, so that'll just have to wait for another day. I know, I have all this video game stuff, and I haven't talked about video games at all. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you really, really liked it, then please consider donating either to my Patreon or to my Ko-fi. The links will be below in the description. I would really, really appreciate if you would do that. I'm trying to get into grad school, and I'm trying to also pay my bills, and who knew that living in Orange County would be so goddamn expensive? Who could have guessed? You know, it's only one of the most expensive places in California, probably also in the world to live in. I don't know. Don't fact check that. Just go ahead and fact check that and tell me if it is. I'm pretty sure it is one of the most expensive places. Maybe like certain parts of Orange County. I'd also like to thank a couple of my donors. Abby, who has been helping me out since the podcast days. Thank you, Abby. I also got 2 coffee donations, one from Andres, thank you very much, Andres, and one from an anonymous donor who wished me a happy Indigenous Peoples Day, which, great, thank you so much. That was very lovely. If you feel so inclined, be like these folks and help me out. It'd be great. You know, I want to get into grad school to get an education in education, and while I'm at it, I am trying my hand out at education, seeing if it's actually something that I want to do outside of, you know, the realm of McGraw-Hill and Pearson telling me what I should tell students. So, you know, who knows? Hopefully you all are learning something though. But until our next video, take care and goodbye.